Why did you leave late night?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked you.
Yeah. I wanted to diversify.
I'm black, man! I'm the biggest minority you know about!
Not just white people. I've had black people tell me what you need to do is get sick on Wednesday. True story. Get sick on Wednesday and cancel Thursday, Friday.
Arsenio Hall has finally broken his silence about what really destroyed his career. The man who revolutionized late-night TV and gave hip-hop its first mainstream platform was systematically destroyed by those who controlled black entertainment.
I got a secret, though. Some of the A-list are people we helped to put where they are.
From the Farrakhan interview that triggered his downfall to the LGBTQ protests that exposed his vulnerability to activist pressure, Arsenio's story reveals the brutal reality of what happens when you don't comply.
And I felt I was being used, and my audience trusts me. My audience knows that if I say it, or if I'm dealing with something, I at least believe it, or I'm trying to be an honest man.
This is the hidden truth about why we didn't see Arsenio Hall for decades. So let's get into it. In 1989, Arsenio Hall didn't just launch a talk show. He started a revolution that would change late-night television forever. The man who would become Hollywood's most powerful voice for black entertainment grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, with dreams bigger than anyone around him could imagine. After moving to Los Angeles in the early 1980s, Hall quickly established himself as a talented comedian and actor. His breakout role came in 1988 when he starred as Eddie Murphy's loyal sidekick Semi in Coming to America.
I feel like a complete idiot.
Oh, do not be ridiculous.
The chemistry between Hall and Murphy was undeniable, and their friendship would become one of Hollywood's most enduring partnerships. But it was Hall's decision to enter the world of late-night television that would make him a cultural icon. When The Arsenio Hall Show premiered on January 3, 1989, it represented something unprecedented in American television. A late-night platform that celebrated hip-hop culture, showcased black talent, and gave voice to communities that had been ignored by traditional media.
Oh, gosh, I feel great. There are probably people in Utah saying, who is he? Remember all that weight Oprah lost?
The show's impact was immediate and transformative. While Johnny Carson and David Letterman dominated late night with their predominantly white audiences, Hall created a space where artists like Ice-T, Public Enemy, and De La Soul could perform and be interviewed seriously about their art and social messages. Hall's approach was revolutionary in its inclusivity. As industry observers noted, 75% of his guests had never appeared on a talk show before, and this included artists from all backgrounds, not just black performers. He featured spoken word artists, emerging musicians, and controversial figures who would never have gotten airtime on mainstream shows. The show's success was unprecedented for a syndicated late-night program. By 1992, Hall was airing on 178 stations throughout America, and his influence extended far beyond entertainment. When presidential candidate Bill Clinton appeared on the show in June 1992, playing Heartbreak Hotel on the saxophone, it became a defining moment in political history that helped him connect with young and minority voters. But Hall's success also made him dangerous to the established order. His willingness to give platforms to controversial figures and discuss issues of race and social justice made him a target for those who preferred their black entertainers to be less politically engaged. The writing was already on the wall by 1993. Competing late-night shows began launching specifically to counter Hall's influence, and industry insiders started whispering about his difficult reputation. The same authenticity and fearlessness that had made him successful were being weaponized against him by an industry that demanded conformity from its black stars. What Hall didn't realize was that his biggest challenges wouldn't come from white executives trying to control him, but from the very community he was trying to uplift. the real betrayal was coming from within Black Hollywood itself. As Arsenio Hall's influence grew, so did the pressure from industry forces to rein in his platform. His willingness to book controversial guests and tackle difficult subjects would ultimately provide his enemies with the ammunition they needed to destroy him. The first major controversy came with Hall's multiple bookings of comedian Andrew Dice Clay, whose misogynistic and offensive humor sparked protests from LGBTQ activist groups. Critics accused Hall of giving a platform to problematic comedy, while defenders argued for free expression. The backlash revealed the impossible position Hall found himself in. Damned for booking controversial guests, but also criticized when his platform wasn't diverse enough. Hall's defense of his booking choices showed either naivety or defiance about the forces working against him. He didn't seem to understand that his enemies were collecting ammunition for a larger attack on his credibility and judgment. Every controversial decision was being cataloged for future use against him. The criticism intensified when audience members protested the show for lacking openly gay or LGBTQ representation.
This is my show, man. You think I haven't had somebody on the show because they're gay? What?
Hall's final response that many prominent gay artists weren't publicly out and that he couldn't out them on television was honest, but was twisted by critics into evidence of insensitivity. The LGBTQ community's disappointment was understandable, but it also played into the hands of those looking to diminish Hall's progressive credentials. But the controversy that would ultimately destroy Hall was his decision to interview Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan on February 25, 1994. The announcement alone sparked immediate criticism, with industry insiders questioning whether Hall understood the implications of giving Farrakhan a platform. Hall's attempts to balance the Farrakhan interview by also booking gospel singer Kirk Franklin backfired when the controversial interview dominated the episode. Critics accused him of giving Farrakhan too easy a ride, failing to challenge his controversial statements about race and anti-Semitism.
Why do you think there has been so much resistance to me having you on the show? Not just white people, I've had black people tell me what you need to do is get sick on Wednesday. True story, get sick on Wednesday and cancel Thursday, Friday.
The Farrakhan interview became the breaking point for many stations and advertisers who had been looking for an excuse to distance themselves from Hall's show. The fact that other journalists who had interviewed Farrakhan faced minimal backlash while Hall was pilloried revealed the targeted nature of the attacks against him. Industry observers noted that the criticism of Hall's interviewing style was deeply unfair. His approach had always been about open dialogue and giving guests space to express their views, but suddenly this was being characterized as journalistic weakness rather than a different philosophy of communication. The mounting controversies served their intended purpose. They gave industry executives and advertisers cover to withdraw support from Hall's show while claiming it was about his editorial judgment rather than their discomfort with his influence. The same fearlessness that had built his success was now being used to justify his destruction. By 1994, the pressure had become overwhelming, and Hall made the decision that would define the rest of his career. The end of the Arsenio Hall show in 1994 wasn't just a business decision. It was the culmination of a systematic campaign to destroy the most powerful black voice in late-night television. What happened behind the scenes reveals the brutal reality of how the entertainment industry eliminates threats to its established order. According to concert promoter Leonard Rowe, who worked closely with black entertainers during this period, Hall's downfall was orchestrated specifically because of his defiance and desire to speak on issues related to race. The Farrakhan interview wasn't just controversial, it was the excuse industry power brokers had been waiting for to justify removing Hall from his platform. The timing of events surrounding the show's cancellation reveals the coordinated nature of the attack. Just as the Farrakhan controversy was reaching its peak, Paramount's merger with Viacom was finalized, providing the corporate restructuring necessary to eliminate Hall's show. The syndicated version of The Jon Stewart Show was immediately launched as a replacement, suggesting the substitution had been planned well in advance. Hall's mistake was believing he could maintain the same level of independence and social consciousness that had made him successful.
I wanted to diversify.
Industry veterans warned him that challenging the power structure would have consequences, but Hall's commitment to giving voice to marginalized communities made compromise impossible. The financial pressure was intense. Stations began demanding softer content and fewer controversial guests as advertising revenue dropped. The message was clear: conform to mainstream expectations or face economic strangulation. Hall's refusal to abandon his principles sealed his fate. What made the destruction particularly cruel was how Hall's own statements about leaving to focus on his son were weaponized to cover up the real reasons for his departure. While Hall did have personal reasons for stepping back, the narrative that he voluntarily left minimized the systematic campaign that had made his position untenable.
I wasn't the guy that was supposed to do it straight through. I was supposed to go away and have other experiences.
You always felt that way? You knew you would go away?
Oh yeah, I'm from Cleveland. I wanted to do it like...
The industry's ability to create alternative explanations for Hall's disappearance was crucial to their strategy. By promoting the story of a devoted father choosing family over career, they avoided taking responsibility for destroying one of television's most important platforms for Black expression. Industry insiders who witnessed the campaign against Hall described it as ruthless and comprehensive. Advertising pressure, station defections, and negative media coverage combined to create an environment where Hall's continued success was impossible. The most telling aspect of Hall's destruction was how quickly his replacement shows failed. The Jon Stewart Show lasted just one season in syndication, proving that the issue wasn't format viability, but specifically Hall's content and influence. For Leonard Rowe and other industry observers, Hall's blacklisting represented a warning to other Black entertainers about the consequences of challenging the system that had elevated them. While industry forces were systematically destroying Arsenio Hall's platform, a new power player was emerging in Black entertainment who would ensure Hall never found his way back. Tyler Perry's rise to become the gatekeeper of Black Hollywood coincided perfectly with Hall's exile, and according to industry insiders, this wasn't a coincidence. Tyler Perry's approach to entertainment was everything that made industry executives comfortable. His content was safe, his production methods were efficient, and his business model prioritized profit over social commentary. Where Hall had used his platform to challenge audiences and explore controversial topics, Perry created predictable content that appealed to mainstream sensibilities while maintaining the appearance of Black authenticity.
This is my house. You live by my rules when you're in my house.
As Perry's influence grew throughout the 2000s, he gained unprecedented control over Black entertainment opportunities. His Tyler Perry Studios became a crucial gateway for Black actors and creators, giving him the power to determine who worked and who didn't in his corner of Hollywood.
Crazy because there were no Black people on television. Before diversity became a thing, Tyler Perry was the only one out there for a long time. There was a moment where every movie that after the 90s had all these Black hits.
According to industry rumors, Perry viewed Hall as a threat to his brand of Black entertainment. Where Perry promoted traditional values and avoided controversial political content, Hall represented a more confrontational and socially conscious approach that challenged the status quo Perry was comfortable working within. The contrast in their treatment by the industry was telling. Perry was celebrated and supported by networks and advertisers who had punished Hall for similar levels of success. The difference wasn't talent or audience appeal. It was their willingness to conform to industry expectations about how Black voices should be used. When Hall attempted his comeback in 2013, he found a dramatically different landscape than the one he had left. Perry's influence meant that many of the Black artists and executives who might have supported Hall's return were now aligned with Perry's vision of Black entertainment, rather than Hall's more revolutionary approach. Industry sources suggest that Perry's team actively worked to ensure Hall's comeback failed by discouraging guests from appearing on his show and influencing station programmers to provide minimal support. While Perry himself never publicly acknowledged such efforts, the coordinated nature of the obstacles Hall faced suggested institutional resistance. The tragic irony is that Perry's success was built partially on the foundation that Hall had laid. Hall's groundbreaking work in legitimizing black voices in mainstream entertainment created the space that Perry was able to exploit for commercial gain. But Perry's version of black entertainment was ultimately safer for the industry power structure, making him the preferred gatekeeper over someone like Hall, who had proven willing to challenge authority when conscience demanded it. When Arsenio Hall returned to television in 2013 with a revived version of The Arsenio Hall Show, industry insiders knew the deck was stacked against him. 20 years in exile had changed both the entertainment landscape and the power structures that controlled it, but Hall's determination to reclaim his place would reveal just how thoroughly he had been blacklisted.
When I first launched my show, I was able to bring what I do not just to a black audience, but to anybody that was open to check it out. Anybody that wanted to party could come party.
The revival began with promise. CBS television distribution committed to the project, and there was initial excitement about Hall's return to late-night television. Even Jay Leno made a special appearance to announce the show's renewal for a second season, suggesting industry support for Hall's comeback. But behind the scenes, the obstacles were overwhelming. Hall's team struggled to book major guests despite his ratings being comparable to cable shows like TBS's Conan. Celebrity representatives who had told the show they wanted to work with Hall mysteriously couldn't get their clients scheduled, suggesting coordinated resistance from within the industry. The show's creative struggles were partly due to the departure of executive producer Neil Kendall soon after the premiere, leaving the show without strong leadership. But industry observers noted that the lack of support from CBS in finding a replacement suggested the network wasn't fully committed to the show's success. More damaging was the systematic downgrades from stations that had initially supported the revival. When Tribune Broadcasting moved the show from 11 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. at their flagship New York station, WPIX, it signaled to other affiliates that the show was expendable. These time slot changes were death sentences in the competitive late-night landscape. The most telling aspect of the show's cancellation was its timing. Despite CBS having renewed the show for a second season, the network reversed course just weeks later, citing insufficient audience growth. The speed of the reversal suggested that forces beyond ratings were influencing the decision.
I got a secret though. Some of the A-list are people we helped to put away.
Industry sources revealed that Sinclair Broadcast Group's decision to downgrade the show prompted CBS to recalculate the financial viability of continuing. When advertising revenue projections showed significant losses, the network abandoned Hall despite the previous commitment. Hall's statement upon cancellation was diplomatically vague, thanking his staff and acknowledging the challenge they had undertaken. But his social media posts revealed the pain of having his revival cut short just as he was hitting his stride as a host. The failure of the comeback effectively ended Hall's career as a major television presence. At 57, he was too old to wait another decade for another opportunity, and the industry had made clear that his brand of entertainment was no longer welcome. For Hall, the lesson was brutal. Exile from the entertainment industry is rarely temporary, and the forces that destroy careers are patient enough to ensure that comebacks fail as definitively as original downfalls. In 2022, Arsenio Hall's Los Angeles home was broken into twice within a few weeks, raising concerns that he might have been specifically targeted. The incidents revealed just how far removed he had become from the protection and security that his former status in Hollywood had once provided. In the first break-in, intruders broke a window and entered while Hall was inside his home. The violation of having strangers in his personal space while he was there was deeply unsettling. Just weeks later, they returned, this time smashing a sliding door to gain entry. The repeat nature of the crimes suggested Hall was being specifically targeted rather than randomly victimized. The burglaries forced Hall to confront the reality of his current situation. Unlike during his peak years when security and protection were standard parts of celebrity life, he now found himself vulnerable and exposed. The incidents raised speculation about why his home specifically was being targeted and whether his past controversies or current financial situation had made him a mark. Hall's public response to the break-ins revealed a man who was shaken but trying to maintain dignity in the face of violation. The fear and uncertainty about his personal safety added another layer of stress to someone who had already endured decades of professional exile and personal struggles. Meanwhile, his attempts to remain relevant in entertainment continued with mixed results. His 2019 Netflix comedy special, Smart and Classy, marked one of his few major platforms in recent years, but it failed to generate the buzz or opportunities that might have led to a sustained comeback. His return to the Coming to America sequel in 2021, reprising his role as Semi alongside Eddie Murphy, provided a nostalgic reminder of his peak years, but also highlighted how much time had passed since his last significant success.
Take heart in your grief. You are king now. Be as your father. Bark orders at me. Throw things at me.
The role was essentially a favor from his longtime friend Murphy rather than evidence of renewed industry interest. At 68, Hall's current reality is that of a man living with the consequences of challenging the entertainment industry's power structure. The home invasions, failed comeback attempts, and ongoing legal battles paint a picture of someone who paid the ultimate price for refusing to conform to industry expectations. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the long-term consequences of crossing powerful forces in entertainment, showing how completely someone can be erased from the cultural conversation when they threaten the established order. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.